Hi everybody, how you doing? It's Peter Doak here, and it is time for the PDG Advertising Podcast, episode 49. Whew, you know what? It is a hot day here in Belfast. We had just so we can do the podcast, the fan has been turned off because you hear what it sounds like whenever you have the fan going. There you go. Yeah, you don't want that going in the background, and I've also closed the window. So if you hear like a thud in the middle of this podcast, you'll know what it is. It is your host and narrator of the PDG Advertising Podcast collapsing due to heat exhaustion. Hot and all as it is, today has been an awesome day for PDG Advertising. There's been a couple of things that have really stood out and made me really pleased about what we are doing. The first thing is we had our new team member that's due to start on the 1st of April. We had like a familiarization day today where our new team member came in and we went through all the things that we do. We went through all of our customers. Anthony and I ran through all of the tasks that we do, and it looked like we were building a team together. So I was really pleased about that. That was pretty awesome, and it's nice to see a little bit of momentum in terms of what we're doing. So that's something that I'll keep you guys updated on, and we'll see how that turns out. But it's always interesting whenever you bring someone else into your environment to see how they get on and how they react. And I think it was good, and we'll have to see how we get on over the next little while. But very keen to see how our expansion turns out. And it changes things in the office a little bit, because for a long time it was just myself, and then it's just myself and Anthony, and now it'll be myself and Anthony plus one, and it means we're going to have to redo the office a little bit. We're going to have to organize ourselves a little bit more. We're going to have to train someone up. There's a lot of things like insurance that need to be thought of, payroll, national insurance, all that great stuff that goes to run the business. But it goes back to it again. It's really cool that we're doing all this at PDG Advertising, and I'm very happy about it. But my goodness, there's a lot of stuff to think about whenever you run a business. You don't know unless you know. Unless you run your own business, you don't have a clue what it's like. I heard someone in a lift once, because that's where I get my information from, listening to people in lifts. And it was a friend of mine, and he said, he had just had kids, or had a kid with his wife. He hadn't had a kid. But he said, unless you have kids, you just don't know what other people are talking about in terms of the tiredness. And right now I feel pretty tired. It's bound to be a little bit of the same with business and employing people. And it's such a little percentage of the world that does that other people just couldn't get it. I didn't get it before. I took on a full-time person, and now taking on 2 full-time people. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of, reliance that people are putting on you to be reasonably good at what you do, to make sure that you structure things well for them. Don't get me wrong. What's interesting is there's a kind of a equilibrium or a push and pull effect, because whenever you hire someone and they're good, they then start to build in processes themselves that build you up and build the company up as well. So there's a kind of a it's not the best way to put it, but like a mutually assured destruction. So even though you're responsible for their salaries and making sure everything runs right, if they're not good at what they do, if they're not able to step up and do what you ask them, then you're not really responsible for their salaries. You're not really responsible for them. They're if they don't put the effort in, if they don't have the enthusiasm. I've been really lucky with the team members that I have right now, and they do. So what I've learned is, even though it's a risk in employing someone, over the course of maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, you end up seeing that there's a balance between the risk that you take and the positive influence of having good people around you, and that balances up itself. So if you make the right decisions at the top, and you say, look, we're going to go into this area, or we're going to work on this, or we're going to do that, and they put their all into it, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. There's a lot that can, go wrong, but generally, if those two things match up, you're going to be okay. And how do you make the right decisions? I guess that's a case of making lots of decisions, learning from the ones that you got wrong, and redoing them as you go forward. But I suppose there's something like a 80-20 rule here, where 80% of your if you make 100 decisions and you get 80% of them right, that should propel you forward. If you make 100 decisions and you get 90 of them wrong, that you're not going to go forward, and you're not going to go well forward. But allowing yourself the safety net of structure, going at the right pace, not going too fast, and learning from your mistakes, you should then start to make the right decisions. So whenever you start to make the right decisions and your team are behind you and they're working for you and they're working well and everybody's working together well, then that's the magic. But you don't know that. You only know that. Well, I've only known it since I've become a business owner. I only know that that's how, it works and how to do it. But it's certainly interesting to see how things are moving forward. So from a bedroom in a house to a coffee shop to a co-working space to a private office to a 2-person private office to a 1 employee to 2 employees to what's next? Where are we going? Are we going to 10 employees? Are we going to 100 employees? Are we going to 1,000 employees? I think we're going to much, much bigger than that. So let's see what we can do to move fast and break stuff as we go. So whenever you look around for content for online advertising channels, and I'm really sorry, you're probably hearing my chair crack there, but whenever you look for content ideas for your business, you don't have to look very far to find them. I don't care what business you're in. Digital advertising could be said to be a difficult one if you make it difficult, but if you just look around, you find content ideas. So we were working on that today, and we've created a folder for content ideas in our folder structure, and that's a real step up from what we've been doing. We've just been flat out focusing on customer work, and forgetting about PDG advertising work. So even if the stuff that we put out for PDG advertising isn't amazing, that's kind of okay, because we're working on it and trying to figure it out. So we've created this content idea, and one of them is just a page with words on it of things that we can create into posts, and one of them is like creating unstoppable adverts. I was at a conference years ago. A guy called Colin Whelan. He we went to a conference and Colin was presenting. This was a conference called the Professional Planning Forum conference, and Colin worked there, and he was a real inspiration. Like, he's really passionate about what he does. He basically understands workforce management technology, which is like rotas and call management and back office management and resource planning and all that great stuff that contact centers needs. But the Planning Forum is a centre of excellence, and Colin was someone who worked for them, is someone that worked for them, and he now works for another company, one of the WFM technologies. But anyway, he started off his talk by saying, "How is everyone?" like a lot of speakers do. And Colin is from Liverpool. I think everyone it was like a Monday morning or something like that. And everybody was, I'm all right. And Colin said, "That's not good enough. What? How are you really feeling? Tell me, how is everyone?" And then he went, we're good, we're really good. And he said, "That's not good enough." And what he said was, how would you feel if you asked someone how they were and they said, "I am unstoppable"? And that has always stuck with me. And I'll bet I would put money, if I could find anybody else that was in that crowd that listened to Colin, that they would remember that too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that from Colin's speech, and we are going to make unstoppable adverts online. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that little piece into a piece of content, and we're going to put it out there, and we're going to blast it out to the world. I feel like we're building a little bit of momentum with our content, even though I don't think it's amazing right now. It will be very soon, and I'm very happy about it. And what's really interesting is, I don't know why, but I think in the office here, we're getting in sync with that. So we're doing the podcast every day. We're looking up our stats every day. We're trying to figure out things for content, but having an area of content planning and a place to put ideas, I think is very important. So speaking of content, today we had a really nice piece of content to create. It's a hot day, and what we're doing was, one of our customers is in the US. They're called Rachel's Tea, and you'll notice that we don't really talk about our customers so much on the podcast. We say what type of business they're in, but we don't always talk about what they do. But this one's really important because we got through. We bought a pack of Rachel's Digestive Relief Tea. Been working with Rachel for a little while now, and Rachel from Rachel's Tea. And this tea is sold all over the United States. It's designed to support and maintain healthy digestion. It's 100% natural. It's made of turmeric, wild yam, ginger root, marshmallow leaf, chamomile flower, peppermint leaf, fennel seed, slippery elm, and peppermint oil. So what we did was we bought this and got it delivered. We didn't tell our customer that we were doing that because we wanted to get the experience of the product. I thought that's very important for our customers, that we are able to test out the product without our customers knowing, so that we can give any feedback if there's any friction points, because all the advertising in the world won't solve a bad delivery process or a bad distribution chain or a bad product or a broken product. And we're looking for repeat customers. So we'd like to point out that nicely, Rachel's Tea came, everything was fine. And we then, today, a couple of days after we got the product, we sat and we took a little bit of time just to sit in the office, and we had a cup of Rachel's Tea together. It was really nice. It's nice tea. It's supposed to be healthy for you. I feel a bit energized, which is good. Hopefully you can hear that on the podcast coming through. So who knows? Maybe Rachel's Tea is something that I'll be having daily. So what we did then was we took a selfie in the office, and we've posted that up across social media. So if you're listening right now, you can head on over to our Instagram or our Facebook page, and you can see what that looks like. But that's the mentality that we're getting into now, where we're creating little pieces of content on the fly, on the go, that are relevant and show us off in probably in what I hope would be the best light that we possibly can. Something that was really interesting that I heard a few weeks ago was on another podcast called the Jordan B Peterson podcast. I don't know if any of you out there have heard of him, but he's a psychologist based in Canada, a very interesting guy. And, I guess writer's block and creative block has come up a few times in this office. Not solely with us, but it does happen where, you're in the middle of doing something like, I can't move this past this point that I've got to. And Anthony said it the other day that he needed to just go and take a walk. And one of our customers today said that they did a bit of writer's block whenever they were trying to send us over some ideas. But I think I've got a way to get through that. One is taking a break from what you're doing. If you're drawing something or writing something and it's just not working for you, or you're trying to learn something, take a break and then get back to it. That usually will sort it out. But another one is, if you just can't figure out what to do to make something better or to make something work, taking a step back and saying, what would make this just 10% better? What would not completely fix this, but what would make this, just a little bit better? And what I've found is whenever we do that, we end up making it 100% better, and we end up fixing whatever it is that's wrong. And that comes from Jordan Peterson. He says, whenever you're stuck, take a step back and ask yourself, what would make this 10% better? And everyone, that was the PDG Advertising Podcast, episode 49. I hope it provided you some value. This podcast process provides me and the team with a whole bunch of value. So we'll be continuing it. And this is Tuesday. So if I haven't melted in this office, there'll be another PDG Advertising Podcast tomorrow. That'll be episode 50. I really can't wait. What I'm thinking of doing is taking some of the greatest hits from the PDG Advertising Podcast and putting them together. But we'll have to see how that goes. I'm more interested in consistently delivering out the PDG Advertising Podcast. But thank you again for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. If you're in Belfast, I hope you're out in the sunshine. Bye.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.